Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. It is Monday, April 11th. Ian Cameron with you. Brand new week set to begin. We don't exactly begin with a, a huge NHL slate on this Monday, that's for sure. It is a one-game NHL slate, and we will break it down right here on this show today. Winnipeg Jets, Montreal Canadiens. That's the only game in town tonight in the NHL. We'll more than make up for it tomorrow. Obviously, it is just a monster Tuesday card coming up tomorrow. Of course, we will have our regular daily Ice Guys show coming up tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, tomorrow night, it's Tuesday, and that means it is an Ice Guys Betcast Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. So looking forward to that. This is going to be one of our busiest and one of our craziest Ice Guys betcasts probably of the season, because I know for a fact we have not had one yet where we've had 14 games on tap, but that's what we have going on tomorrow. So that is going to be a huge edition of the betcast for sure on a massive Tuesday card with 14 games on tap. Before we break down the one game tonight, just to look back on the weekend that was in the NHL. Playoff races continue to be heating up, really more so on the Western Conference side of things. Like, as far as the East is concerned, we know all the playoff teams. We know Carolina, the New York Rangers, Pittsburgh Penguins, Florida Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning, Boston Bruins, and Washington Capitals are going to be your 8 playoff teams in the East. We're just wondering where they're all going to finish. It's all about positioning. That's the only thing that's still up for grabs in the East. As far as the Western Conference, though, is concerned, there is still a lot at stake there in terms of who's going to get in and who's not going to get in, of course, and it comes down to the wild card spots. There are 2 wild card spots in the West still up for grabs. The Nashville Predators with 87 points, the Dallas Stars with 86 points, the Vegas Golden Knights with, with 84 points. And I will say this right now, the LA Kings are kind of being pulled back in, to a position where their playoff fate's not guaranteed as of yet. There's still a situation where, you could see the LA Kings not make the playoffs. I mean, they're in the Pacific Division, and they're only 2 points ahead of 2 points ahead of Vegas, 6 points ahead of Vancouver in the division. And, of course, Vegas could knock out LA for 3rd spot in the Pacific, because really they're only 2 points behind LA, and they have a game in hand on the Kings. And if that happens, if Vegas supplants LA as the 3rd place team in the Pacific Division, there's a scenario all of a sudden where LA's fallen out to battling with Nashville and Dallas for the wild card, and they're right there with Dallas at 86 points. So nothing is guaranteed for the LA Kings, and they've played 74 games this year. So keep an eye on that. All of a sudden, there's a potential they miss the playoffs totally, the LA Kings. And, of course, it didn't help their cause yesterday that they couldn't protect a 3-0 lead against the Minnesota Wild. Minnesota ends up coming back and winning that game by a score of 6-3. The other games yesterday, we saw Washington beat Boston 4-2. Good performance by the Capitals. Got to give them credit. They played pretty well. Vanacek was solid in net, especially in the 3rd. Pittsburgh, 3-2 overtime win against Nashville. Just unfortunate when you have the dog and they lose in overtime. That's pretty tough. And Nashville, I thought for the majority of the game they outplayed Pittsburgh. Certainly in the first 2 periods they did, but there's no doubt that the Pittsburgh Penguins got their game going a little bit in the 3rd period. That was by far their best period of the season for sure. So 3-2 Pittsburgh in overtime. Great play by Sidney Crosby as well on that eventual game winner in overtime. As far as the other games from yesterday, we saw Tampa Bay beat Buffalo 5-0. It was just Buffalo didn't have it. And I guess they were due for one of those games where that was going to be the case. And Tampa Bay, I guess, was due for one of those games where they were actually going to look like, one of the best teams in the NHL and the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions again. And they certainly did yesterday. Shutout for Brian Elliott as well. So credit to him in that 5-0 Tampa win. Carolina gets a much-needed win against Anaheim 5-2, although that one wasn't as easy as they had hoped. They got a couple of goals late to put it away. Not pretty, but 2 points that Dallas desperately needed. They beat Chicago 6-4 last night. Credit to them. Obviously, they had a terrible game at home against the New Jersey Devils on Saturday. Bounced back to win 6-4 on Sunday night. As I mentioned on yesterday's show, that was not a very happy Rick Bowness after the New Jersey game, and rightfully so. He said, nobody played well. If we play like that the rest of the season, we're going to be out of the playoffs in 3 weeks. And I guess finally it hit home that we better be ready for this Chicago team. And to be honest with you, I thought Dallas played very well last night. A lot of those goals that Chicago scored early in the game, some fortuitous puck luck. One of the first goal Chicago scored went in off a Dallas player trying to slide to block the shot. It was really more unlucky than anything else. And of course, but I thought they played a lot better, Dallas. And that was a good response. The response you want to see. You want to see your team have a pulse after a debacle of a loss like we saw from the Stars against the Devils, and they did that last night against Chicago with the 6-4 win over Chicago. Winnipeg, faint playoff hope still alive. They're not making it. I mean, that's a newsflash. They're not making it. I mean, they are mathematically alive, but it's going to take a lot for them. But until they're totally ruled out, they're still a puncher's chance. They're going to keep saying the right things and, say, hey, as long as we're mathematically alive, we got to take it one game at a time. They beat Ottawa 4-3 last night in that game. And of course, the Jets back in action in what is the only game tonight in the NHL, taking on the Montreal Canadiens. We've got Andrew McInnis joining me here on this Monday. Andrew, how was the weekend?
Hey, it was a good weekend, Ian. Rather low volume for me, but I'll tell you what, one of the plays I did have was, and I saw that on the show you had loaded up on the Vegas Golden Knights. I had the over 6 in that game, and I'll tell you what, I needed every last goal from the Golden Knights in that game to cash that over for me. But all winners really count the same, right? Yep. So I was happy to get that one through. This weekend, one thing I guess I could say I took out of it, Ian, was that last week we saw lots of upsets. We saw lots of team total overs for Buffalo and all that good stuff. But the favorites got it done this weekend, and I think it's a big thing where, that old expression, keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes that works. Not every time. But people in the gambling industry look down upon people that always are playing favorites. Tell you what, if you were a favorite player on Sunday or Saturday, you did okay. So. There's going to be some spots this week. Look towards, teams that need the wins. Yesterday, Dallas played very well. They showed up, and looking at some different scheduling spots. And I was on a show earlier. Of course, I do a show with Carmine. He was talking a lot about the Nashville Predators, and I was talking about all season long how it's been an up and down roller coaster. I have them plus 270 right now to miss the playoffs. And you take a look at their schedule; it's not very a great one for them. And even a team like the Dallas Stars right now, looking at their schedule coming up, with Vancouver and Minnesota, I believe. Tampa Bay's in the mix, I believe. So it's interesting, April hockey, taking a look at scheduling for teams. And because obviously they look at that stuff and, but they try and win every game. But I mean, some teams that are on the brink, they want to have some good scheduling spots coming up, whereas some other teams might not have that. But it's exciting. I think, Ian, I'm finally going to start potentially diving into that draw world, just like Alex does. And if I don't do it, as regular unit plays, they will be smaller plays, but this could be a week to see some draws.
That time of year in the NHL where, especially when you get an East versus a West team, even when they're both in the mix for a playoff spot or improving positioning, those are even stronger draw scenarios because each team doesn't care if the other team gets a point.
Yeah.
Those are really good situations. Whereas maybe if they're battling with them for positioning, like for Vegas and Vancouver tomorrow night, for instance, that's one of the big games on Tuesday night. I think both teams want to make sure they shut out the other team from getting anything in that game in terms of points. But when you get, teams that aren't involved, that are playing each other, that need points, but they're not battling each other for whatever they're trying to battle for, then that's a good draw scenario. And definitely we could see some of those. And definitely Alex is right to at least look in that direction when it comes to maybe those big plus prices. You can get plus 300 or more for the most part with the draw in so many of these games. So very interesting to see how it goes. But let's get to it, Andrew. We got one game. That's it
Yeah.
on this Monday. But it involves your beloved Montreal Canadiens in action tonight, taking on the Winnipeg Jets. We've got Winnipeg minus 125, road favorites here, 6.5 the total in this game. The money's actually come in on Montreal a little bit, of course. Last night, Winnipeg beats Ottawa 4-3. It's a back-to-back situation for the Winnipeg Jets. That definitely plays a part in maybe this line move a little bit, and the absence of Mark Scheifele, who got injured and left the game for the Winnipeg Jets last night against Ottawa, and he will not play tonight in the back-to-back here against the Montreal Canadiens. As far as the Jets go, obviously they're still mathematically alive, but how realistic are the playoff hopes at this point? Very thin. I mean, they don't gain any ground on Dallas because Dallas beat Chicago last night. And even after beating Ottawa, here's the problem with less than 10 games to go. Winnipeg took care of business last night, but they didn't gain any ground. They're still 7 points behind the Dallas Stars, who currently hold that second and final wild card spot in the Western Conference. So I guess you keep playing hard down the stretch till you're officially out. But let's be honest, I think it's going to be difficult for the Jets to make it, almost impossible. That win snapped a 4-game losing streak, which is a 4-game losing streak that they couldn't afford. And yeah, they won last night, but it's, to me, a difficult team to trust night in and night out. Montreal, I give them credit, 3-2 loss to the Leafs. They played a pretty solid game in that one against the Canadiens, against the Leafs. Keep in mind, Jake Allen left the game due to injury. Samuel Montembeault had to replace him in that game. So it was a bit of a tricky situation for Montreal to deal with, having to change goalies right in the middle of the game. But, they kept plugging away in that game and kept on pressing. And if not for some really good goaltending in the third period, a couple of breakaways and a couple of odd man rush chances for Montreal that were stopped by Eric Shalgren, who I thought played pretty well on Saturday night, could have been a different result. But again, this team, they're not going to win every night, but they've been giving you a pretty good effort most nights. They beat New Jersey. I cashed an underdog bet with them in that game. They lost to Ottawa 6-3. I took Montreal in that spot against Tampa, where they won in a shootout with Tampa Bay in that spot where they were in the back-to-back. And they had the big game with the Leafs after that. And Montreal took advantage of that. And as I said, against Toronto, I was on Montreal puck line. That cashed. Now, I would have liked 4-3 or 5-4 Toronto instead of 3-2 because I also had team total over 2.5 with Montreal in that game, and it fell short. But that's kind of where I'm going in this game. Like, it's not a game that I say there's anything super strong that's in terms of bets, but we'll get some small action in tonight on this game. And more than anything, I'm probably looking at a Habs team total. I'll probably sprinkle a little on them as a home underdog too, because I just don't like the spot here for Winnipeg. I don't trust them on a back-to-back. I'm not sure what we're going to get from Eric Comrie, who one game's been excellent and one game has been terrible. I mean, we've seen a little bit of everything from him. He had actually a really good few starts there for a while, but last 2 starts, he gave up 3 to Columbus. He got absolutely ambushed by Toronto the last time we saw him in a start. March 31st, he gave up 6 to the Leafs that night, although Toronto is scoring goals in bunches for a while now, so I guess it's not anything to be ashamed of if you're Eric Comrie, but he's not exactly been someone that I fully trust. So this is going to be probably a sprinkle across 3 different plays here, a little Montreal team total in this one. I think is worth a look here. Well, you can get that right now in this game at over 3.5 at a decent plus price, plus 120 in a lot of spots. The Montreal money line I like a little bit here, plus 105 as well. Actually, plus 110 in some spots. It's down to plus. Actually, it is still plus 110 in a couple spots. So make sure you shop around. It's probably over or pass as well from a total standpoint, but it is 6.5 and it is juiced. But I would look in that direction. As far as props go, if you want to get involved in shots on goal, Josh Morrissey shooting the puck a lot more lately for the Jets from the blue line. That could be an interesting look. Kyle Connor, obviously, especially now with Scheifele out, there's even more emphasis on him pulling the weight offensively. Not that he hasn't pulled his weight all year. He's been terrific. He's been arguably the best player. Nikolai Ehlers as well. He got on the scoreboard last night for the Jets as well. So there's a couple Jets props. For Montreal, it starts with Cole Caulfield. There's no question about that. Shots, goal scorer, prop, whatever you want to do involving double CC, as I call him, Cole Caulfield. Definitely something to consider for this game because he's got the confidence. He's getting the chances. He finally scored in the game against Toronto, and he had a couple of really good chances before that. He could have had probably another goal or two in the game against the Leafs as well. So it'd probably be those are the targets for me. Morrissey, Ehlers, Connor on the Jets side, and probably Cole Caulfield more than anything on the Montreal side. Maybe Anderson too. Josh Anderson had a bunch of chances against Toronto, and it makes you think that maybe this, the red light's going to come on for him if he keeps asserting himself like he did Saturday night against Toronto. Andrew, what do you think here? Winnipeg, Montreal.
Yeah, what a game to be the lone game of the night, eh? And then I saw your tweet that you posted yesterday of how jam packed it's going to be tomorrow for our betcast, and I look forward to cracking a few cold ones with you, Ian, and watching the games, and I'm making my return to the betcast. So look forward to that. Look, the way I look at it, I think the number has gone down far enough where, I've been impressed with my Habs. I was impressed with the effort against the Maple Leafs. The young core is playing well. I like the way St. Louis has them rolling. And the depth's been pretty good too. I like Yoel Armia, the way that he's been playing. Nice to have Edmondson back in the blue line. I just wanted to say, I know I sound like a fan a bit when I'm saying this, but I think that Montembeault, Ian, has gotten disrespected too much. And you heard me say this kind of earlier in the year too. Imagine if you told this guy how many starts he'd have at the start of the year and you told him this number, what he'd say to you. He'd call you nuts, right? And the fact that Jake Allen said to Eric Engels, look, this has been a season of hell for me injury-wise. Not about the season results, injury-wise. And it's just, Montembeault, talk about ice time. I mean, experience is one thing he's gathered 100%. He's confirmed, of course, like you mentioned. And I just think he's been through so much that it bothers me even as a sports bettor, but also just as a Habs fan, seeing kind of Twitter just rip on this kid as if he was, supposed to be a number one goalie in the NHL right now. But anyway, with all that being said, I like the first period over too. I like the full game over as well. But I do think this game has a very fast start to it. Winnipeg lately has just been a fast-paced team. And you mentioned those shots on goal numbers. The thing that bugs me, I noticed this earlier, when you take a look at Winnipeg and their shots, and I'm sure you noticed this too. Do you see how inflated they are today, Ian? Oh my God.
Yes.
I mean, they are. Every single person is pretty much either really juiced or they're up a number. Yep. Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois, even like a lot of these guys. You talk about Josh Morrissey, it's a good sleeper pick, on the defenseman. So that's where I'd look. I mean, I actually might look at Nick Suzuki to score a goal today. He's been playing very well, and he's the kind of guy that I think that, he gets those Bergeron comparisons, and he might not be the biggest goal scorer, but what he does as far as a two-way game is great. And I think sometimes he can kind of slide under the radar. And the more guys like Caulfield play well and guys like that, it opens up avenues for him. So he might be a guy for me. But I'll be honest, Ian, the only wager I've placed so far on this game, and it's a small one, officially, I do like that first period over, but is Kyle Connor to score at plus 100. And, I've talked about it before where people kind of have gotten after me for playing these, not bargain bin, like you say, material players. But Austin Matthews is a great example, man. What is he, minus 135 to score goals now? And, 50 and 50. So whatever, it's all about the results, right? So I take a look at this one, and I think that that's a good opportunity for Kyle Connor to get going after his, he was out with COVID, I believe. It was not like an injury. It was COVID. So he hasn't scored since being back. And I think this could be a good opportunity for him to do so. So take a look at that. That's really what I like here. And that'll be my best bet on the show.
All right, there you go. And that's Kyle Connor. There you go. Score a goal, plus 100 right there. So best bet right there for Andrew for the Monday show with just the one game. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to run through some initial leans. Someone did ask, can we break down at least initial lean? We're going to save the whole card and every game for tomorrow. And we're going to have to go rapid fire tomorrow because it's 14 games. Can't lollygag around. We're going to try to pick up the pace tomorrow with 14 games and breaking them all down. There's going to be some games that I have absolutely no opinion on tomorrow, but just initial thoughts. St. Louis and Boston. I'm tempted by the Blues at a plus price. I like the way they're playing against the Bruins tomorrow. We'll see. I mean, this is just initial, just looking at the lines, looking at the matchups, looking at the scheduling situations. These are just initial thoughts for me. Anaheim, Florida. Over is the first thing that stands out because Anaheim is just, as long as they're going to stick John Gibson in net, they're going to probably give up 5 minimum to the Florida Panthers.
Which sounds crazy to say.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. The rut he's in. What's he lost now? 12? That's this 12th straight game that he started that he's lost for the Anaheim Ducks, the game yesterday against Carolina. I mean, it's just been a horrible fall from grace. Now, it's not all his fault, but he is not playing at the level we've seen Gibson before. There's issues in front of him. When you take a Josh Manson and you take a Hampus Lindholm off that blue line, two of your best shutdown sturdy defensemen, you're going to feel it if you're Anaheim. And of course, those two guys both got traded away before the deadline, and they're feeling that right now. Buffalo, Toronto. I got scared to death to ever bet a Toronto game under right now. So that's first thought there. Philly, Washington. I'm not laying that price with Washington right now. So my first thought there is not a strong opinion on that at all. Philly and Washington. Carolina Rangers. I'm telling you what, Rangers are the better team at the moment. I mean, their game is really in a good spot. I have a hard time convincing myself to bet against the Rangers as a slight home underdog there against Carolina, and what should be one of the prime games on Tuesday night, battle for first place in the Metro Division. Ottawa, Detroit, two teams out of the playoffs. The only way I would bet that thing is over. I always say that. Pittsburgh Islanders. That sure looks cheap on Pittsburgh, doesn't it? The Islanders, I know, have played spunky lately, but they fell flat against St. Louis in that back-to-back spot. Now they do have a pretty nice rest advantage, but feels cheap on Pittsburgh, especially with Pittsburgh finally getting some confidence back, beating Nashville yesterday. Speaking of Nashville against San Jose, Nashville in regulation is one of the first things that stood out to me. San Jose is going to get beaten by anybody that cares, anybody that's better. Right now, look at Vancouver the other night against San Jose. San Jose's fade material right now, as far as I'm concerned. So Nashville needs to bounce back now after losing to Florida and Pittsburgh over the weekend. So, yeah, that stands out to me. Edmonton, Minnesota. I keep thinking Edmonton as a dog. The way they're playing, they deserve to win against Colorado. You couldn't ask for more from Edmonton. They played a hell of a hockey game. They lost in a shootout, tough loss. I continue to like the aspects of their team game coming together. It's not easy to win in Minnesota, but keep thinking there's a little value there. LA, Chicago. I'm not ready to. I don't know if I'll lay $1.45 again with LA, but it's the only way I would go. Chicago is just tapping out right now. It's not been great at all for them. Goaltending's an issue. Lankin and Delia are not NHL caliber goalies. Dallas lit them up offensively last night.
I do see a 5.5 there in that one, Ian. That one kind of stuck out to me right away because it wasn't really a great performance out of them defensively yesterday, but also offensively. Yep. And I don't think they're going to be able to just correct themselves defensively. In LA, they're looking sharper. And as much as we pegged them to be a good defensive team, forward-wise too, I don't know if they could hold Chicago to a 3-1 victory type thing. I think we could see like a minimum like 4-2 LA or something like that.
Yeah, I always get scared to bet LA under, especially on the road. And what do we see with Minnesota, though? 6-3 yesterday in that game. So, yeah, 5.5, certainly with the way Chicago's defense and goaltending is suspect at best. Certainly the over is probably the only 5.5. It's the only thing I could consider in terms of the total. Seattle, Calgary is going to be a pass. I mean, you're actually laying a worse price now with Calgary here than you did Saturday when they played in Seattle. It's all about focus for them. The only way they're losing that game is if they totally fall asleep and they totally mail it in and lay a clunker. So that's just a stay off to probably for me. Tampa, Dallas. I'm not laying $1.55 with Tampa just because they beat Buffalo here. And Dallas is desperate, but do I trust Dallas to beat someone pretty good? I don't know.
That's the thing.
That's the problem. Jersey, Arizona would be an over for me if I get involved in that game. Vegas, Vancouver. You know what? Vancouver's not going away, but I get the sense Vegas wants to stick the final dagger in them. And now they got Pacioretty back on Saturday in that game against Arizona. They're getting healthier. They got just absolutely smacked down by Vancouver when they last played them in Vegas. I don't know. Vancouver's really give them credit for battling hard. They're right in it again still, but I think Vegas might polish them off tomorrow night. That's the way I'm leaning there. Andrew, you're just any initial games that you're thinking for Tuesday? Initial gut leans, just initial thoughts kind of thing, obviously without, confirming anything yet.
Yeah. I mean, like I said at the start of the show, like earlier today, I had my buy and sell segment, and my sell team was actually the Dallas Stars, Ian. And, I guess it's kind of an easy one to look at, but also maybe not too easy because you're looking at still a team that's in good position not really good position, but like they haven't had a, piss poor season, obviously. But I think that looking at their schedule, it's kind of like, hey, it's just not a great April right now for them. And the next week and a half is not a good spot for them. And it's kind of like you mentioned. I mean, this is a team that you're comfortable to look at the regulations and puck lines even against like below average teams. Put them against some top quality teams that are motivated to end their season well. And I think Alex probably made the tweet. Maybe you did, but the tweet from the Ice Guys account yesterday about Tampa Bay, I saw you retweet that. That was funny about Tampa from Alex, and it's true. I mean, Tampa Bay, they took off like 2 weeks, but I can guarantee you they're going to want to end the season off on a good note. And I think that tomorrow I think they're really going to get it done against Dallas. I think Dallas is going to, so that's what I'd recommend as kind of a day before pick, really.
All right. And as like we say with Dallas, don't fall into that trap with them or with any team that the must win equals will win.
Yes.
Doesn't always work that way. Look at New Jersey, goes in there and beats them 3-1 on Saturday afternoon. New Jersey, hasn't been able to stop anybody from scoring against them, and they held Dallas to 1 goal and they beat them in Dallas Saturday afternoon. So tells you all you need. They're as flighty as it gets. The Dallas Stars. I've said that all season. Only won that game, I think, last night because Chicago was so horrendous, and Lankin in particular was awful in that game. He was just not tracking the puck from the very beginning. They said it on the broadcast. He ended up getting pulled. They still gave up 4 to Chicago. They were problematic in their own zone, Dallas, still, even though they won that game last night. So they are just a very, very tricky team to say, hey, big game, big spot, need the win, need the 2 points. I can go to war with this team. They can get it done for me. They're not that kind of team, Dallas. They're just not.
No, and what have we always said about them? I mean, they'll put up 5 goals one game, and the next game they just they couldn't score if you gave them no open net. That's the thing about that team, and reliability is a huge thing. And see that the interesting thing from our perspective is that we not only have to try and find these winners, we want to find good prices, right? And you and I aren't the kind of handicappers that give out minus 300s, and so we have to figure out certain situational spots. But taking a look at tomorrow's schedule. There are some big favorite opportunities. There are some I'm going to look at those, but I'm probably focused more on Carolina, New York, and different things like that. Like, I'm not saying you can't make money off those lopsided games, because you can. But I would just, if you take a look at kind of my wagers I made in let's say January, February compared to March, April, the January, February were me just finding bad teams to bet against. Now I'm doing that, but I'm more so just taking the marquee matchups. And it might sound kind of ridiculous, but it's because I know the certain spots and situations. Whereas with the bad teams, good luck figuring out Buffalo right now. I'm not going to do it. Good luck figuring out Montreal right now, even. It's just an effort that might be an upset, or they might get destroyed. It's it's nowhere in between. And even looking at that game for them against the Maple Leafs, what was Toronto, Ian? 450? You took Montreal plus 1.5. You cashed a ticket. Even if they didn't cash their team total, the plus 1.5 cashed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I thought, especially with them coming off the big record-setting season, best goal scorer single season in Leaf history. Austin Matthews got that against Dallas on Thursday. That maybe, hey, against Montreal, it's maybe a little bit of not a letdown, but you just a lot of euphoria, a lot of excitement, celebration over that game against Dallas. That would they be playing their absolute best? And Montreal gave them a hell of a game. I mean, as far as Buffalo goes, I still think down the stretch there's going to be some value with them. And as far as when Buffalo plays Toronto is concerned, it's very simple. I look at ways to bet Buffalo, or I don't bet the game. Buffalo, for some reason, Toronto is like a Stanley Cup final to the Buffalo Sabres whenever they play them. I mean, look at this year, Andrew. 3 head-to-head meetings, these teams. 5-4 Toronto, 5-1 Buffalo, 5-2 Buffalo. Buffalo's actually won 2 of the 3. And the one Toronto victory was by the skin of their teeth, 5-4 in Buffalo. So they have had no problem, the Buffalo, and they've had no problem scoring on Toronto. 4, 5, and 5 for the Sabres in the 3 head-to-head meetings this year against the Leafs. So I know it lost yesterday, and I was very disappointed with the Sabres team total over, but you can guarantee I'll be on that same play tomorrow night.
It's made some money recently,
Yep.
One thing that you've always said, Ian, that I respect is don't just jump off a trend if it loses once.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially
right.
in baseball. I find people do that a lot in baseball. It's oh, this pitcher had a bad game. He sucks now. It's you know what I mean? If a guy gets yanked after the set, you and I think we're both Jays fans, I believe. I mean, that Jose Barrios,
Yes.
Barrios, he got shelled. But the home opener, what do they have to have, like a 45-minute long ceremony? It fired me up, but I'm sure he would have loved to have just taken the mound. You know what I mean? And he gets destroyed in the first inning. I can guarantee you that there's probably a good chance I'll be on him in his second start.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important in every sport. You got a theory in mind. Don't just jump off if the first time you bet it, it loses.
Yeah.
Because very easily it could come back. And then if you don't bet it, you're really angry. You're very
Yeah,
upset
yeah.
at that point. I'll give you a baseball example. Since we got, a few minutes here, we'll wrap up in a couple minutes, but I'll throw to baseball. I'll actually give you one of my bets for baseball later tonight. It is probably the biggest fade pitcher I've got coming into the season, if not the biggest, one of the biggest. New York Mets right-hander Taijuan Walker tonight. He is one of my prime fade pitchers to begin this season. Why? Because he was not good in the second half last year. He got crushed. I think his ERA was around 7
I
in
like
the
the over in
second half
that game,
last
Ian.
year. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. I think Phillies will do most of the hitting, though. But when I look at it here, Walker was terrible last year. He was not good in the spring. If you look at his spring training numbers, they weren't good. There's a decline in his velocity, down a couple ticks in the miles per hour. That's a red flag every single time I see that with a pitcher in the spring when the velocity is declining. That tells me maybe he's not 100% health wise. Maybe there's an injury on the horizon with the shoulder, with the arm, who knows? But the bottom line is it's got all the elements of a pitcher that we want to bet against right from day one.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing tonight. Phillies team totals in the first 5 full game, Phillies first 5 run line, Phillies money line, the full game over. I mean, all of those things, I attacked all of them pretty much in that game.
Oh, so you are in the full game over with me.
Yeah, I am on
Oh,
the full
cool.
game.
Okay, awesome.
But Suarez is, I think, pretty good at home. I think he had like a 1 point something ERA at home last year for the Phillies, so that does concern me. But this is more just we're targeting the Phillies bats cracking Taijuan Walker tonight early and often in this game. And the point of this is that if Walker goes out there and pitches 6, 7 innings of 1-run ball, I honestly don't think it's going to happen. But let's say it does happen. 6, 7 innings of 1-run ball, I'm going to bet against him in a second start. I'm not jumping off the train just yet. That's kind of the mentality you have to put yourself in with if something you have strong conviction on doesn't work out and it doesn't go well the first time, don't jump off. Try it again at least, a second time before you really start to reevaluate everything. So that's the point I'm trying to make. If Walker pitches a gem tonight, tip of the cap to him, well done. But I'll still probably take another shot fading him the second time. Then if he pitches well again, then maybe we'll reevaluate things. But don't just jump off the train, so to speak, after one game, regardless of what your betting angle is.
Agreed.
Yep. So there you go. There's a little baseball there. See, we do handicap other sports, and I know this is a hockey betting show, but yeah,
I'm currently sweating out the under in the Cleveland and KC game, and there's currently in the first inning the bases were loaded for both teams. So that's how my afternoon's going right now. But only 2-0, 2 bases loaded. So I kind of got to call that a win.
Yeah,
so far, but
it's lots of game to go. But you're right, baseball can be like hockey and any other sport. Hold your breath when you're betting an under. Although baseball unders have been pretty strong to begin the season, but hockey not so much in terms of unders. Been regardless of the sport, feels like you've got to hold your breath with that. NBA, NBA. I'm looking forward to that too. Play-in tournament, playoffs. Certainly, there's excitement here with the north of the border with what the Raptors have done this year.
I think that plus 155 is absolutely ridiculous on the series. I have that locked in. I have a strong bet on that. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that once again, people are kind of undermining the group collective effort of the Toronto Raptors, and that's the biggest thing for me. I mean, I talk about it in hockey, but especially in basketball, when it comes down to the playoffs, ISO ball will burn you. And if Philly tries to go ISO ball, I think the team effort from the Raptors will be too much. And if Precious is nailing threes, if Freddie's taking care of the ball, if they're moving the ball around, if OG plays good defense, I don't know. I think there's too many options. And I love Nick Nurse as a coach. I'm truly not making this bet as a fan. I think they're going to have a rough time in the East, but I truly think that the first matchup at plus 155 is mispriced.
I've heard so many crazy opinions about that series in particular, Raptors and Sixers. I've heard Phillies, or not the Phillies, the Sixers are going to sweep the Raptors, which is
Yeah,
insane to me. And I've also heard people say the Raptors are going to sweep the Sixers, which is equally insane to me. This is
yeah,
going to be a very long, very competitive, very close series. And I think it's going 6 or 7 games and flip a coin who wins it. You do
yeah,
have to factor it in, though. Embiid and Harden, if they're both playing up to their potential, that's going to be tough for the Raptors to overcome that 4 out of 7 times
of
to,
course.
to be able to win that. But at the same time, we haven't seen Harden playing at the level Embiid's been playing. And
Yes.
that has been the issue. There's
Tempo
no
will be a
question.
huge thing. Tempo will
Yeah.
be a very huge thing if they can maintain. I don't want the Phillies. I almost said the same thing as you. Philadelphia 76ers. I don't want them to get in the run and gun type style against the Raptors. I want the Raptors to control and play a low scoring, type of game, lockdown defense, utilize the shot clock, look for the best possible shot, make the extra pass. Because I think the 76ers want to get out. They want to get out and run.
Yeah, and the Raptors will run too, but they do it off turnovers where they're very
Yes.
good at it.
Yeah.
But they can execute. they, they can execute in the half
I think
court
you got to
when they
wrap the
need
show
to.
up, Ian. You got some more stuff to do, probably.
I know. Yeah, we're going to wrap up in a couple
You're
minutes.
choking up.
We just ended up talking about some other sports, which is good. We don't
Oh,
get
for
that
sure.
chance to do that very often. But yeah, looking forward to the NBA playoffs. Of course, MLB now underway. NHL, those Stanley Cup playoffs. That's the most exciting thing to me. Still, it's number one. Nothing better than the Stanley Cup playoffs. And by the way, I want to reiterate before we wrap up with best bets and finish the show. This betcast tomorrow night, 14 games. I mean, this is by far the most games we've seen for a betcast this season. So make sure you join us Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Andrew's going to be with us. Alex will be with us. Hopefully, have a lot of guests. If you're interested in joining us for the betcast, just DM any one of us, and we'll send you the StreamYard link prior to the betcast tomorrow night. We'll at least be on probably till 11 p.m. Eastern, and we'll determine at that point how we're feeling, how it's going, if we stay on for the late games. But we'll be on for 4 hours for sure. We'll guaranteed 4 hours on the Tuesday night betcast, 7 p.m. Eastern till 11 p.m. Eastern. We'll get through all the early games and even the ones that start at 8 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll take you through those ones as well till their conclusion. And then after that, we might sign off. But we'll see. Play it
Yeah.
by ear how the night goes tomorrow. But looking forward to another betcast. And of course, we got our daily show at 2 p.m. Eastern to break down the entire 14-game card. So looking forward to that as well. And a reminder before we wrap it up, too, DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL and partners here with the Ice Guys, the Hockey Podcast Network. And a reminder that new customers, you can bet just $1 on any NHL team and get $150 in free bets if they win. A bump in the win column for your team means free bets for you. DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you still have a shot to light the lamp. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Hockey Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NHL team. Get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app. Sign up for an account and use the promo code THPN. All right, best bets. Andrew, we already know what it is, but reiterate it. What did you like for your best bet tonight, the one game?
Yeah, since coming back, we haven't seen Kyle Connor find the back of the net. Of course, the Canadiens, they've been playing some tough games lately. Montembeau's had a lot of starts late, a lot of action this year. And the defense, they give up some goals for Montreal. And off that game against the Maple Leafs, I don't really expect as much of a great effort, even though they are at home. So I'm not saying they can't win, but I think they're going to allow some goals. And I'm going to the best goal scorer on the Jets, plus 100, Kyle Connor, to score tonight.
There it is. Kyle Connor plus 100. Winnipeg Jets to score tonight against Montreal for Andrew with his best bet. Wade's venture, I appreciate it. I am sounding better. I'm getting there, but there's still, it's just every now and then when you're talking, it's like someone's grabbing the cords of your throat, and just that's when the cough happens.
I hear you.
We're getting over. It's going to be, I'm hoping by the end of the week, we're fully cough free. We're getting there. I'm doing everything. I've got this Buckley's mixture. I've got this Fisherman's Friend lozenges thing going. We're doing everything we
Those are the
can to
best.
get
The
rid of this.
Benylin cough drops. Those are the best. Benelin
Yeah, there
Cup.
we go. If we're still struggling to rid this thing once and for all, maybe we'll stop by Shoppers Drug Mart and get some Benelin as well now. Let's give that a shot to get rid of this once and for all. But best bet for me, I'm going to take the $1.10 with Montreal money line here. Montreal plus 110 against Winnipeg. I like the effort here back home, rested as well after the loss to Toronto. The Jets, I know they need to win, but must win doesn't equal will win. We say that a bunch. I think it's a good spot. And down Mark Scheifele as well tonight. Won't be in the lineup for the Jets. I think it's a game that the Canadiens, who are giving you good effort every night, are capable of winning. And like Andrew said, I was impressed with Samuel Montembeault coming in relief of Jake Allen Saturday night. I thought he played pretty well, kept Montreal afloat in that game. I like Montreal here. I'll take the shot with them. Plus 110 as home dogs against the Winnipeg Jets for my best bet for this Monday NHL card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Pretty cool show with just the one game. We got to talk a little baseball and basketball at the end, but we're back to full business and workmanlike approach tomorrow with 14 games on the Tuesday card, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then our betcast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you join us for that. Just send me a DM if you want to reserve your spot on the betcast tomorrow night. Looking forward to that. Great stuff. The Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Andrew McInnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.